The future of the Star Wars franchise seems to be quite expansive, not just with their books, novels, comics, and video games, but also let's not forget about their new Star Wars live-action TV shows, their animated TV series, and of course the new Star Wars trilogy of movies by Disney and Lucasfilm. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the thing about Disney and Lucasfilm is that they are most certainly now in a phase of desperation and damage control, since they really are trying their absolute best to really recover from the sequel trilogy films. We do know that a lot of fans really steered clear away from Star Wars, especially after The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker really topped everything off. A lot of fans just departed from Star Wars and ripped up the papers and said, "This is it, I'm done." However, there are still a handful of Star Wars fans that stuck around after the sequel trilogy and are very excited about what's to actually happen for the future, right? We're talking about The Mandalorian, we're talking about the Kenobi TV series, the new Star Wars trilogy, and everything else involved. So Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, we also know that they are very much hard at work, working together as a team in order to really craft this new universe, right? This new expanded universe that's going to be far larger than the old one that we got back in the 90s and the early 2000s, give or take. You know, we do know that George Lucas really approved many of those stories in Star Wars Legends, many of which will be making a big return / a big comeback in 2021 and throughout this entire decade. Now, with that being said, obviously, good thing that Kathleen Kennedy is no longer involved on a creative scale with any of the projects in the early development phase, except for the Leslie Headland Star Wars TV show. That is the one thing that she is going to be working on for now, at least. Now, with that being said, with both Disney and Lucasfilm now finished with the Skywalker saga, they are primarily focused on developing their new Star Wars trilogy of films, as well as the new Star Wars universe in general. Now, though Disney canceled many projects after Kathleen Kennedy's power was stripped away in early 2020 this year, around January, after the results of the Rise of Skywalker box office started to pour in. However, one project that was in the works not so long ago was the Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy sometime in late 2018. General storylines were created by Rian Johnson, not necessarily a script, but general storylines or ideas of where the story was going to go, and slowly progressed throughout the year of 2019, while Johnson kept quiet. Now, Bob Chapek recently separated the Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy into 3 separate Star Wars films, and that initially Rian Johnson, before his plans were cancelled, is that his trilogy was going to be based in a brand new Star Wars galaxy, taking place after the events of the sequel trilogy, not so far from the existing galaxy that fans grew up with, where Johnson wanted to experiment with exploring a new galaxy that the fans had never seen before, that would eventually tie into a direct story of the Broom Boy at the very end of The Last Jedi in the other galaxy. Let me just say one thing here now, guys, is that this sounds like it would have been an epic disaster by Disney and Lucasfilm. These plans, to me, at least in my opinion, really don't match up with Star Wars. To essentially depart from the known galaxy and going into a new one, kind of just pretty much resetting everything that we know about Star Wars and introducing new everything, new worlds, new dynamics, new characters that are not associated with anything that we know about. I think it would have been a bit of a problem for fans. You know, I think that you always have to stay in the one galaxy that we're used to, at least for the time being, or at least for a very long time from now, right? So, past this, Johnson actually set up a story also that was going to focus away from the Jedi and the Force, and would focus on a brand new magical power that would be his version of the Force, essentially, that would give creatures and humanoids the strength that they needed in the new trilogy of films. However, these plans were eventually canceled by Bob Chapek in early 2020, once Kathleen Kennedy's power was taken away earlier this year, and since then, Rian's trilogy is up in the air, with little to no chance of reforming for the new Star Wars universe. So, like I've said before in the past, Rian Johnson really screwed up with The Last Jedi, there's no doubt about that. Even Jon Favreau dislikes The Last Jedi, apparently, and, of course, the editor of The Rise of Skywalker, Mary Ann Brandon, even said that it was a really difficult process for Episode 9 to actually make it because of the emotional weight of what they had to fix with The Last Jedi, or should I say with The Rise of Skywalker, from what happened in Episode 8, right? And you can see that they really went through a lot of hell to get things done correctly and to really bring themselves on the right path here, right? So that's exactly why you got Jon Favreau, you got George Lucas, you got Dave Filoni on board, is that they're forming this alliance to really bring the company back on track, to really bring Lucasfilm back to its roots of how the franchise really started out with Lucas back in 1977. That's exactly what they want to do as of right now. They want to make authentic stories that fans have, pretty much loved for years on end with their originals and the prequels. They want to actually embrace that and use that in these new Star Wars movies and in these new Star Wars TV shows. This, focusing away from the Jedi and creating his own version of that, especially the Force, and creating a brand new galaxy, just wouldn't have worked for me as a fan, and I'm sure it wouldn't have worked for a lot of you guys out there. If it did, that's fine. But to me, it just sounds like a sci-fi action trilogy with the Star Wars label slapped on top of it. But anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to morning.